Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm telling you a story that's not just chilling, it's mind-bending. It's the kind of story where the deeper you go, the more unbelievable it becomes. And at the center of it all is a woman named Sheila Davalloo, an Iranian-American whose crimes would shock even the most hardened investigators. Sheila Davalloo was born on May 11th, 1962, in Charlottesville, Virginia. Her father was Iranian and her mother Italian. When Sheila was just 2 years old, the family decided to return to Iran, where she spent the rest of her childhood. She had a wonderful upbringing. Her family was extremely wealthy and highly educated. Both parents had PhDs and were active in scientific research. Sheila had everything, nothing was missing. She was intelligent, driven, and grew up with every opportunity a child could dream of. At 16, her family moved back to the United States. She attended private school and excelled, always ranking among the top students. On the outside, the Davalloo family seemed perfect, highly educated, well-off, and polished. But inside the home, things weren't so smooth. Her family was deeply conservative and religious. They didn't let her go out freely, return home whenever she wanted, or talk to boys. The strict rules sparked constant conflict. Sheila couldn't understand why she had to live so differently from her peers. Eventually, things got so tense that she attempted suicide in her teenage years, but survived. She also had a younger brother, but almost nothing is known about him, not even his name. What we do know is that he suffered from schizophrenia. He would scream at random, behave unpredictably, and the family kept him completely hidden from the outside world. Only family members were allowed to interact with him. After finishing high school, Sheila met a man named Feridown, Fred Mousavi, at a family picnic. He was 7 years older than her, and they married in a traditional, arranged setting. But their marriage lacked passion. It said they didn't even have a proper marital relationship. Sheila studied biochemistry and later went on to New York Medical College to study pharmacy. There, she met Paul Christos, a fellow pharmacy student 2 years older than her. Their friendship started casually, but they soon discovered they had similar ambitions and career goals. Despite being married, Sheila's relationship with Paul grew more intimate. She began hiding her double life. She told her husband she was visiting her grandparents, but instead, she was secretly meeting Paul. Paul had no idea she was married. That illusion shattered one day when Paul received a phone call. A man said, "I'm Sheila's husband." "I think you're seeing my wife." Paul was stunned. When he confronted Sheila, she cried and admitted the truth, saying it was the big secret she was always afraid to reveal. She insisted she didn't love her husband and couldn't divorce him because her traditional family would never accept it. Eventually, Paul gave her an ultimatum: either she gets a divorce or their relationship ends. Sheila, desperate to keep Paul, pushed to separate from her husband. It took a year, and in 1999, she and Fred Mousavi divorced. But this only led to a major fallout with her family, who saw her divorce as a betrayal of tradition. They disowned her. Still, Sheila was content. She now had Paul, her true love, and her freedom. Paul forgave her, and they married in 2000. Her family accepted Paul and welcomed him, and their life looked perfect on paper. Paul worked in cancer prevention research, and Sheila became a pharmaceutical researcher at Purdue Pharma in Stanford. But despite having everything, a good job, loving husband, beautiful home, Sheila wasn't satisfied. Just a year into the marriage, she started another affair, this time with a coworker named Nelson Sessler. They worked on the same projects, and their frequent collaboration turned into romance. Sheila was falling hard for Nelson and repeating the same betrayal as before. Nelson, like Paul before him, had no idea she was married. To keep her affair going, Sheila would lie to Paul, claiming her schizophrenic brother was visiting, and because he didn't know she was married, Paul would have to vacate the house entirely, removing all traces of himself so Nelson wouldn't suspect a thing. Paul, compassionate and understanding, would pack up and leave for a hotel, believing he was protecting Sheila's mentally ill brother. But the truth? There was no brother visiting. Sheila was using the excuse to invite Nelson over. This continued for months. Eventually, Paul started noticing clues: 2 empty wine glasses, a man's underwear left behind. When he confronted Sheila, she insisted they belonged to her brother. And Paul believed her. Meanwhile, Sheila's obsession with Nelson intensified. But Nelson had moved on and started dating another woman, Annalisa Raimundo, a brilliant woman who had no idea about Sheila. That's when Sheila's lies grew more complex. She invented imaginary friends, a couple named Melissa and Jack, and told Paul long, emotional stories about their love triangle. In reality, she was describing her own twisted situation, using these made-up names. She even asked Paul for advice about Melissa, who was heartbroken over Jack seeing someone named Anna. She would go into detail about Melissa's heartbreak, Jack's betrayal, and even their intimate life. Paul, completely unaware, would offer suggestions, trying to help what he thought were Sheila's friends. Sheila wasn't done. She stalked Nelson and Anna, trying to figure out where their relationship stood. When she realized Nelson had chosen Anna, she couldn't handle it. On November 8th, 2002, Sheila went to Anna's apartment under the pretense of wanting to talk. When Anna opened the door, Sheila attacked her with a knife. They struggled. Sheila dropped the knife. The fight escalated. Sheila grabbed a dumbbell and beat Anna with it until she died. Then, she wiped away her footprints, used a public phone to call 911, and pretended to be a concerned neighbor reporting a suspicious man entering Anna's home. She calmly returned to work as if nothing had happened. When police arrived, they found a chaotic crime scene but no sign of forced entry. This suggested the killer was someone Anna knew. Suspicion initially fell on Nelson, whose reaction was oddly emotionless. But he had a solid alibi. He was at work during the time of the murder. With no concrete evidence, Sheila avoided suspicion. But she wasn't done. She still wanted Nelson. And now that Anna was gone, she thought she had a clear path. But there was one problem: Paul. 5 months after Anna's murder, Sheila decided to get rid of her husband. But divorcing him would be a scandal in her traditional family. She'd already been disowned once. Another divorce would destroy her image permanently. So, she made a horrifying decision. She invited Paul to play a game she had heard about at work. It involved blindfolds, handcuffs, and guessing random objects based on touch. Paul thought it was a playful, romantic idea. First, Sheila let him tie her up and blindfold her. Then her turn came. She tied Paul's hands behind his back, blindfolded him, and began the game. She placed objects on his body and asked him to guess. Then she placed a heavy dumbbell on his chest to dull his senses and stabbed him twice in the chest. Paul screamed in agony, begging her to untie him. She pretended to have lost the handcuff key. She called 911 but gave no real information. Then, she left him bleeding, took the phone outside, and called Nelson to set up a dinner date that night, thinking Paul would bleed out and die. But Paul survived. Barely. Even as she was driving him to the hospital, she took the longest, most traffic-filled route. When they finally arrived, she parked behind the hospital instead of near the emergency entrance. And then, in the parking lot, she stabbed Paul again. Paul screamed. Thankfully, people nearby heard his cries. Staff rushed out, found him, and got him into surgery just in time. Meanwhile, Sheila fled, but police quickly arrested her. During interrogation, she pretended it was all a game gone wrong. But when Paul regained consciousness, he told police everything. Sheila still denied everything. Even when she was told Paul survived and revealed the truth, she tried to twist the story, blaming it all on misunderstanding, accidents, or even claiming Paul tried to harm himself. Eventually, Sheila was charged with attempted murder in Paul's case and sentenced to 25 years in prison. But the story doesn't end there. In 2008, DNA evidence from Annalisa Raimondo's crime scene matched Sheila. She was finally charged with Anna's murder. And in 2012, Sheila, in a bizarre move, decided to represent herself in court. She cross-examined Nelson and made arguments in her own defense. But the recorded 911 call, her lies, her manipulation, they all caught up with her. The jury found her guilty. She received an additional 50 years for Anna's murder. To this day, Sheila Davalloo maintains her innocence. She insists she didn't kill Anna. But the facts, the evidence, and the horror of what happened, they all tell another story. Safety tips and relationship red flags you must never ignore. The case of Sheila Davalloo isn't just a shocking story, it's a disturbing reminder of how manipulation, obsession, and emotional control can quietly unfold behind closed doors. That's why we need to talk about real-world safety. If someone like Sheila could hide two separate lies, lie convincingly to multiple people, and orchestrate not one, but two attempted murders, it means anyone could be at risk if they miss the signs. Here's what to watch for. 1. Beware of people who lead double lives. If someone is overly private about their past or insists on secrecy in strange ways, like not wanting to introduce you to family or refusing to let you leave any sign of your existence at their home, that's a massive red flag. In Sheila's case, she completely erased Paul from their shared space to deceive her other lover. A healthy relationship doesn't require hiding, it thrives in the open. 2. Excessive storytelling or fictional characters. Sheila invented fake friends, Melissa, Jack, and Annalisa, just to speak about her own love triangle without getting caught. If someone is frequently referring to people you've never met or constantly talks in riddles and metaphors about others' relationships, consider the possibility that they might be projecting their own reality under false names. Watch for inconsistencies in their stories. 3. Using mental illness as a manipulation tool. In this case, Sheila used her brother's schizophrenia as an excuse to repeatedly remove her husband from their home. While compassion is critical, emotional blackmail disguised as concern for family is a dangerous manipulation tactic. Be mindful of those who use sensitive issues to guilt trip you into silence or compliance. 4. Never ignore physical clues. Paul found 2 wine glasses and men's underwear in their home, and Sheila lied with complete confidence. If something seems off in your environment, trust your gut. Dismissive explanations for suspicious things, especially when they repeat over time, deserve scrutiny. 5. Understand the psychology of obsession. Sheila didn't just fall in love, she became obsessed. She stalked her lover's new partner, inserted herself into their relationship, and eventually resorted to murder. Know the difference between love and possession. When someone wants to control every part of your life, from your emotions to your relationships, it's not romance. It's dangerous. 6. Watch out for the perfect image. Many manipulative people are masters at appearing intelligent, charming, and successful. Sheila was highly educated, held a respected job, and came from a perfect family. But that didn't stop her from turning violent. Never assume someone is harmless just because they seem put together. Narcissistic individuals often use their image to hide dangerous behaviors. 7. Don't play along with manipulative games. Paul thought he was playing a romantic game, but it was a setup for attempted murder. Be careful with blindfolds, restraints, or any situation where you give up physical control, especially in a relationship where trust has been questioned. If anything ever feels off or forced, even slightly, speak up. Leave. 8. Respond to repeated excuses with boundaries. If someone keeps using the same excuse to control your behavior or isolate you, don't accept it forever. Paul left his home dozens of times for Sheila's supposed brother, even when it stopped making sense. Repeated requests that disrupt your life for unclear reasons should always raise concern. You have the right to ask questions and expect real answers. 9. Always have access to emergency help. In any relationship, make sure you have full control over your phone, finances, keys, and location. Sheila made fake 911 calls and delayed help for Paul because she was in control. Imagine if he didn't have a way to speak up later. Your safety should never rely entirely on someone else, no matter how much you love or trust them. 10. When someone dismisses serious concerns, take them more seriously. Paul was repeatedly gaslighted, made to believe things that were deeply suspicious were completely innocent. If your concerns are being dismissed over and over again, pause and reassess the situation. Dismissiveness is a defense mechanism, and it often hides something more sinister. If you ever feel unsafe, tell someone, a friend, therapist, or even authorities. Keep a private record of suspicious events, conversations, or odd behaviors. Don't isolate yourself. Isolation is the breeding ground for manipulation. Have a safety plan, including a trusted emergency contact and escape route if needed. Final thoughts. Sheila Davalloo didn't kill out of rage. She planned, manipulated, and executed her actions step by step. That's why cases like hers are terrifying, because the threat doesn't always come screaming at you. Sometimes it smiles sweetly and says, "Let's play a game." So stay aware. Listen to your intuition. And remember, your safety is more important than someone's reputation, tradition, or even love. Stay safe, stay aware, and thank you for watching.